just wanted to say thanks for the invite today. It means a lot to me.
You're welcome. We're honored to have you here. So now you're going to get down and deeper into the weeds, right?
Right.
You'll give us the true, how does this work and what does this do? And
of course,
let
absolutely.
folks know what to do. Yeah.
And I hope we have a little fun too. We're going to have some fun today as well. Yeah.
I mean, hey, we already broadcast early, so I mean we're off to a different start.
Right. Exactly.
So it's all good. We for those of you that are joining us, I can't figure out how to turn the sound off my notifications, so we're just gonna let those chirp in the whole time. I'm the one that's more technology challenged, I think, than everyone else. So anyway, we were at the NFDA. We were in the booth with Ring Ring as well, so that was fun. We kind of took a little corner and helped their folks as well. So that was neat. I actually had to get a few teddy bears down and pass them out.
And I was going to say, NFDA this year, it might be the best NFDA I've ever been to. This would be the fourth time I've been to an NFDA convention, and I'm telling you, the attendance was fantastic. I got to see a lot of my clients there. We ran into some prospects. We had you in our booth with us. I mean, it was great. Really a lot of fun this time around.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought there were there was a lot of traffic. There was more folks this year, I felt, than a couple years in the past. Or maybe it was just the fact that the Ring booth was next to the puppies. I'm just saying, it might have been the puppies.
It's always a good place to be. Everyone likes to go and pet the dogs that they have there for grief training and bereavement training and everything. But yeah, we were in a good spot, that's for sure.
Yeah. Did anybody else make it this year or see the puppies? Because they had some doodles that were they were gorgeous puppies. I wanted to sneak one home, but they were training them and they were theirs, I believe. I don't think they actually breed as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a couple of the clients I work with at Ring Ring actually have grief therapy dogs in their funeral homes, and they've worked with that company over, in the past. So it was kind of a nice tie-in to be right next to them like that.
Yeah. No, I thought it was neat. So every time we went around the corner, I'd spend 10 minutes back there with the puppies.
Exactly.
There was this, the cutest little female. One of the tans, the littler one. Oh, she was ornery. Especially in the mornings, they brought her in. They had to let the energy let her release. She was fun.
Well, hey, you were close enough. You could have went home with one of them, Brent. You were able to drive the NFDA this year.
That's all I need is another doodle in my life. So, all right. Well, hey, I think we're going to get started then. Looks like we've got a good group here, and some of you had to listen to us for 10 minutes already. But hey, that adds a little entertainment to our day. But so first, I want to say welcome and thank you for joining us. We have a special guest today. We have Daniel Hug with us from Ring Ring Marketing. So he said he waved, and those of you that were on earlier, he said hello. He's going to chime in today and really talk about we call it a crossover, but we're all doing so much for marketing. And what are the other things that we can do? And that's what Daniel's going to talk about. And if you're not, he's going to really cover a lot of different ideas and thoughts with marketing. But as we go down that path or that journey or that funnel, we always come down to a phone call to an appointment. So that's where we really fit in and want to educate some. And we'll do our best to keep this educational, not trying to sell ourselves. It's challenging at times. And it's just fun, though, that we're carrying this on for another month because we are learning so much more from all of you, the customers that were even at NFDA, different ways to put things together. So, we even kind of walked away with some going, you almost need that phone call training and etiquette excellence. I guess we'll say on the phone is almost that last step of marketing, even though it's not because marketing keeps going, but it's kind of a point that intermingles between marketing and CX to get that appointment, especially in death care. But,
yeah, and I know Brent's going to share some things here in a few minutes, but we with the clients we work with at Ring Ring Marketing, we have a funnel that we're going to see here shortly, and once we get all the way down to the funnel is where someone takes action, and that in our situation that would be a family calling into the funeral home. So our goal as a marketing agency is to get as many people to the bottom of the funnel as possible, so your phone rings. And that's where the partnership with Ring Ring Marketing and Dead Ringers works out so well, because then they help the funeral homes at that end of the funnel. Once the phone is rang and someone has called you, they're there to help with that part. So really, our two companies work really well together.
Yeah. And the good part is we all get along and like each other. So it makes it even
I
easier.
know. Even Brent.
Right? Right? Come on.
We even like Brent. You know, what's wrong with
Right?
us?
Which, yeah, there's a few. There's always somebody for everybody. All right. I will share the screen, and Daniel, I'll let you know that I changed a couple of slides. Meant to tell you about that, but it's more entertaining if
That's
I
all right.
go.
We're gonna roll with the punches.
No, they're,
So
they're all,
when I have that deer in the headlights look, you guys will know why now. Brent's changing things up on me last minute.
yeah. Well, and we didn't want to do a ton of slides, but we mentioned a couple things, and that's what we want to talk about, the funnel. But the original one's in there, so I can grab that as well. But
Good.
I think let's do those polls real quick. So some of you that came on, you saw the polls, and we have a good attendance too. Great. I'll launch the polls, the results here. I can never remember how to do that.
Mandy, are you tech support?
I know. I'm looking at. I know I did it the other
Oh,
day.
a friend.
Maybe I already did. No, I don't see the polls showing. But it was the main question. Right? I can go over it. Was, have you done any marketing for your firm? And when we read it, we've got 60% said not yet, but hoping to learn more. Well, you will definitely learn some more today. And 40% no. So really, we don't have one on here that said yes. So Daniel, you've got your work cut out for you. You need to do some
I was
good
gonna
training
say,
and give everybody some ideas.
yeah, this is enlightening for me because I think sometimes, you know, we work so closely with so I'm one of the coaches at Ring Ring Marketing, and we work so closely with the clients in our groups that sometimes we forget that a lot of funeral homes have not started doing digital marketing for their funeral home yet. So yeah, you'll definitely learn a lot today. So I'm glad that you guys are here.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Then we had a second one. This is because we started 10 minutes early by accident. So Mandy decided to put some polls out there. Has your team ever engaged in training specifically for how to handle the phone? And we've got 76% said yes. Well, considering this is the Ring and Dead Ringers webinar, I can see how it can happen. But there again, we've got 23% said no, and nobody said it's on my radar. Tell me more. So I'm just going to be quiet most of the time. Nah, probably can't happen. Those of you that know me know that won't happen. But I will do my best to give a couple educational pieces for everyone as we try. Always try to do. But that tells me to go ahead and pass things over to Daniel because he's who you're here for. You want to
Absolutely.
So hopefully everyone has seen the main screen. We should be. Never wants to move the same way when I'm in this mode. Over here. Okay. So Daniel, we'll start there. I just kind of took all the extras out and I was going to put them on as we went through it a little later.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Work for you? Okay.
This is great. Yeah. So anyone who's kind of been around Ring Ring Marketing for some time now, you've probably seen this funnel before or some sort of a variation of it. But you know, just kind of in a quick 2-minute description, I kind of want to walk through the consumer journey with you when they're considering a funeral home. So up at the very, very top of the funnel. So you notice how funnels work is they're widest at the top, and of course they get more narrow at the bottom. And that kind of represents the number of families or the number of potential clients for your funeral home as a family moves through the journey. So this is really specifically problem aware. So problem aware, really simple for a funeral home. What that means is someone has either died or someone is maybe in a near-death situation, hospice care, you know, end-of-life care, something like that. So, you know, that's kind of the group that we're talking about here. So I'm actually gonna, for the time being, I'm gonna skip the very, very top of the funnel. We'll actually come back to that at the very end. So we'll skip that for now and jump down to problem aware. So that is when, like I mentioned, someone has died, someone's very close to death in their family. So that's when an ordinary person, maybe they are new to a city, you know, very few people live in the same town that they grew up in. I'm a great example of that. You know, I've moved around a couple of times as an adult. So if I didn't work in this profession and I needed the services of a funeral home, I wouldn't know where to turn. So what most people do in 2025, they go to Google, our friend Google, and they say, you know, hey, funeral home near me. funeral home in, Wichita, Kansas, or whatever city they might be located in. Or some people are even doing searches for, top rated funeral home near me and things like that. So that's kind of where our wheels start turning at Ring Ring Marketing. And what we want to do for the clients that we represent, we want to make sure that they're the top result when people are doing those types of searches. So, we have a couple different tactics that we use, but, I would encourage you guys as you're sitting here, likely in your funeral home, grab your phone as you're watching this webinar and type in funeral home near me. Now, if you're sitting in your funeral home, you should be number one in the results. But if you're not, we can definitely, there are some strategies out there that we can help with that too. So anyways, going back to the funnel. So, obviously when someone does a search, they're going to usually Google. There are other search engines out there, but as a whole, Google gets about 92% of the share of searches. The other 8% are DuckDuckGo, Yahoo, Bing. Believe it or not, some people still search on AOL. There's a few other ones out there, but the vast majority of the searches happen on Google. So you've done the search, you get the results, you kind of then move down to the next stage of the funnel, which is evaluation. So that's where, Google's going to give you the top results. And as a consumer, you're thinking, okay, what funeral home do I want to choose? Things that a lot of families consider are the reviews. So obviously Google reviews have become extremely critical in that decision-making process. And you can see that even a little further down in the funnel there. But ultimately, once you make a decision of which business you want to go with, or at least pursue further, not necessarily do business with yet, but then you go to their website. So, once they find you on Google, the funnel moves down to the website. And then there is some opportunities for remarketing. So, and this works really well in a pre-need situation. So let's say someone has visited your website, they're thinking about, maybe doing a pre-need, or maybe they're thinking about an elderly family member that will need the services of a funeral home soon, but maybe not today. What we can do, or what any marketing agency can do, is they can do what's called remarketing. And in those situations, after someone visits your website, they actually will see ads pop up on their Facebook, maybe on the Google Display Network, on different websites that they visit and things like that.
Those are the things that fill my feeds all the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now I know what it's called. I know there's a term for it. Good.
Google Display Network. Yeah. So
yes,
it's called remarketing, and it works great. You've probably been there before, where maybe you visited a website if you're looking for a new car, for example. Like I love cars, so I'm always looking at different car websites. And then all of a sudden you leave the page for a brand new model that just came out, and you're on your Facebook feed kind of scrolling through things, and all of a sudden you see an ad for, a beautiful brand new car. So basically that ad has followed you to your, different devices and things like that. But yeah, that's what remarketing is. And then I had mentioned online reviews already. That's usually a very important factor when people are making decisions of who to work with. But ultimately it leads to a phone call. To be honest with you, that's why our company is called Ring Ring Marketing, because we want to make sure that we are a part of every single layer of this funnel. I'll let Brent talk a little bit more about those two at the bottom, but what I'll do is just real quick, circling back to the top, display ads and social media marketing. This, while it is a part of the funnel, it's very big and very wide. This is truly a part of marketing that is disruptive. So, you've probably been on your Facebook feed before, just as an example. And as you're scrolling through, all of a sudden you'll see an ad or something that says sponsored. So that is a company that's basically interrupting your Facebook experience to show you that ad. So this is what we have found at Ring Ring Marketing, at least, is this type of marketing actually works really, really well for pre-need. Because you're basically letting someone know that this is something that they may be interested in, even if they have not expressed interest in funeral home or death care or anything like that yet. So I know that was a little longer than 2 minutes, Brent, but that's kind of how we look at the funnel. And like I had mentioned, where Dead Ringers comes in is really at the bottom of the funnel. After that person has called your funeral home, then we rely quite a bit on Dead Ringers to really help you guys convert that call into a family you're serving. So Brent, I'll turn the torch back over to you and let you explain that part of it a little more.
All right. And if anyone has questions for Daniel, like I had to admit, I didn't know what remarketing was, even though I was on the webinar with Welton last month. I missed that part, but don't hesitate, ask questions. This is we want to be here to teach and learn, right? So more educational, not salesy. So we're just trying to really give you guys information. So if anybody has questions, don't hesitate, fire them off, or you can always reach to Daniel anytime you want. So, all right. Okay. So as he mentioned, I put the arrow in there for us, right? See, look at these graphic skills. My sound's off.
We're getting high tech.
Telling you, I don't know. So yeah, so and Dan, you mentioned it right away. You said problem aware, and that problem, whether it's death, imminent, or maybe even pre-need, our emotions are up, right? It's a complex discussion, and we want to talk to another human. It's just natural when we get in those events. That's humans. We want to talk to other humans. And I'm not going to sit here and say, no one will ever do anything online. I'm also not going to say, well, they don't want to go online. It's a mixture of everything and both at the same time. But as we can see here, we always have to go from the phone call to get to the appointment. And that is because of the problem journey that we have in the profession we're in. And for the families we serve, it's that high emotion problem. So they want that phone call to get to an appointment. I always add in the loyal customer just because that is what we're after. And in this profession, we create a lot of loyal customers. Some of them are so loyal, they come back 30, 40 years later and don't realize it's not 100% the same place. And we know we've all rented that before too. So, but what I wanted to do is just take a minute and see if anybody's familiar with the next piece, which really would be to ask yourself, well, maybe not. I'm telling you, my animations are fun today. Ask yourself, and if you have it in these pitfalls, if you've experienced, or think about the profession in a whole, right? And do we have room for improvement as a group? I think it was neat to see many of you, as you should be, say that, yeah, absolutely, we've had training on phone skills. But I can tell you in all the years that I was in cemetery sales, pre-need, funeral, et cetera, I don't know that I ever had training specifically on communication skills. Now, yes, sales where it was we want to work on the appointment before or certain things to say, but not a real training course in that sense. So what
Brent, I will add in, I've heard that a lot too from the clients I work with at Ring Marketing, that a lot, even their pre-need sales folks, they say that they don't feel like they're fully trained on sales. So that is a big problem, I think, in the profession as a whole.
And I think it's because we just think, well, it's just normal. It's communication. We should be fine. It's what we do every day. And I like to say it's kind of like riding a bike. We know how to ride a bike, but I'm not ready to do a 20-mile race tomorrow, right? There's different things I got to do for that race to make sure I'm on a different bike or different things going up and down hills that I'm going to do. And I think of that and it's like, wow, something as simple as riding a bike. That's what we do when we answer the phone. We think we can just jump on that phone like we can a bike and ride 20 miles. And maybe we can today with electric bikes. We just push a button and we can get our 20 miles in. But here's what we're learning. And hopefully you know this and hear it. AI can't answer the phones for us in our profession. Maybe it could answer the phone and say, okay, who did you want to speak to, and send you to that direction? Because, right, it sounds like a person when you call, but it's not going to be able to fully do a call because it can't do sincerity, empathy, sympathy. It's just not going to have the right impression and feelings that's needed for the families we serve. So, but anyway, these are some of the pieces that are out there, right? But lack of proper phone skills, it's everywhere. And even though we train it, am I perfect every day? No, because again, we communicate every day. So we believe we're on all the time, but we really just need to always kind of go through a little bit of a reinforcement, go back and review things that we forgot or learned years ago. The big one here, though, in the middle that I like to bring up is the no value proposition communicated. And Danny, I don't know if you hear it. I know you guys probably try to really work with it in marketing, but everyone in the profession with the gifts right, people have gifts and callings to work with the families that we work with or that you work with. I'm not a director, right? But I have whatever the gift is that allows me to talk to them. Maybe not as much the calling. So, which don't get me wrong, I do now. I'm here, I get it. But we don't want to talk about ourselves. It's amazing. It's like a simple one. If you have a retort on site, always let people know that we have a retort directly on site, and your mother will never leave our care. Well, what you're doing is saying is before you ever talk to someone else, they might leave their care over there, but we don't do enough of that. So that's something I find amazing, because there's so much differences, but yet some of us work so hard. I watch folks out there, clients have just perfect everything, right? They pick it's like the grass is cut with scissors. So everything's perfect, but yet we don't want to tell everybody that we go out and cut the grass with scissors so it looks perfect every day. But okay. So those are a few of the pitfalls that I think we can all agree are out there. You know what it is? I just don't have good eyesight anymore. I just can't see anything. So here's where I wanted to go back to this and talk about this little bit of a journey here. Is that what I think what our goal is, as we kind of meet with the folks, we have appointments, we create loyal customers, we really want to turn them into raving fans. And that's where Daniel's going to help you again, is what are the things you're going to do? And I'm not going to say I'm perfect here on my slide, but at some point we're going to make them raving fans, and those turn into pre-needs. And eventually those pre-needs come back into our funnel. They maybe don't come back
Absolutely.
to the funnel, right? I think they come in somewhere else, but they definitely go back in the funnel. So what I wanted to do though now was give you that part. The folks that we meet that haven't had phone training, only about 35% make it through the phone call to the appointment. That's the win rate that we see. So what we're saying is out of 100 calls, 35 of them go on to the appointment. So the point there would be we do a lot of work to only keep 35% of that. So what do you think then the other side looks like? Yeah, or 65, right? I kind of gave that away, but there's a lot more going out than is staying with us. So that's where phone training is definitely something you want to work on of any form, any kind. And we'll give you a couple of little tidbits today as well to help with that.
Brent, when you shared that number with me when we were, preparing for this this meeting today, that number was really surprising to me, because at Ring Ring Marketing, we're often so focused on the funnel until we get to the point of the phone call. And I think we'd like to assume as a company that that all those calls, obviously become appointments, which we know is not a reality. But I think that's something we wish maybe happened more often. But I was really surprised at the 65%. That number took me by surprise.
It hit me too, right? Like when I was first talking with Mandy and Paul and learning things about dead ringers, it just kind of said, wow, right? To me, it was like, there's a secret here that we all need to know. And it's just about phone training, right? And then even doing the basics would make a difference. Just some simple things. So and it's by no means, when you hear this, it's like we're putting we're spending to get people to call. Well, the next step is, before we spend a whole lot more, let's just do some training so that you're starting to get 40, 50, whatever that percentage that starts coming through before you expand and spread out more. That way, and that's something to think about, right? There's folks that are like, we just got to keep reaching new markets. It's like, well, let's focus and make sure we're getting what we're supposed to get. We're never going to get 100%, but let's get as much as we can where we are. So that's where we kind of feel like we're that piece in the middle, right? That gap I put in there is kind of that. The gap here is the piece between where Dead Ringers fits in. So we kind of say, hey, we're kind of the end of the marketing before the appointment, not the end, but the last stage before it. But we're also that first stage of that customer interaction and that CX.
And we are lucky in this profession. You mentioned it earlier, and I just wanted to reiterate it. We do have loyal, trusting customers that typically are with us for a very, very long time. I threw a stat out at the beginning here that there's a lot of folks out there that don't live where they grew up. So like, I always use myself as an example when I bring that up. But there's a lot of people that do rely quite a bit on Google to find funeral homes. But the people that live in their hometown, they probably have a trusted funeral home already. So that's another thing that we really stress with our customers at Ring Ring Marketing. We want to make sure that they're at the very top of those rankings, regardless if they have a loyal customer or not, because in the age of Google, people don't have a Rolodex of phone numbers at home. They say, gosh, we went to a funeral home 10 years ago for, my grandmother's funeral, and it was so great. I just wish I could remember the name of it. I think it was located over on the other side of town somewhere. And then they pull out Google and they start looking for it. Well, you better hope it's your business that comes up in that situation.
No,
So,
absolutely.
we do have a loyal bunch in the funeral profession, but I think loyalty gets a little bit harder in 2025 versus even 5 or 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah, and I need to preface, since you brought it up, right? When we talk about this problem aware journey, not every customer is diving into the funnel, because some of them just automatically are your loyal fans. They're just going to call you right away and say, "Hey, we need to meet tomorrow." So preface that when we say this, these are the folks that aren't 100% loyal, ready to walk right into. Now, there's still things we got to do to keep them loyal. So that's why we want to continue to be out there and have those Google reviews, because again, that family that's been super loyal, but they see no reviews or negative reviews, that's going to make them pause and rethink, right? But so when I give you these numbers, yes, thanks for mentioning that, Daniel. It's really going to be more the folks that are new to the markets. They're looking, maybe what they are is they're not your 100% raving fans or loyal fans. They have some doubt or some question, and they're looking. So I already kind of popped this one up a minute ago, but let's think of the reality. Where do those other 65% go? Yeah, they're going over to your competitor's funnel. Now, the positive is they're not much better. So there's still some churn going to come out of there. And after 2 or 3 funnels, it can come back to your funnel again. And I say to folks out there that if they're pre-need, it's the same thing, right? We do the sales leads funnel. It works just like marketing. It's the same. We've got to have that phone call. And if we don't handle the phone call right, they're going to call that next competitor. So what we really want to do is help you shrink that 65% and increase the 35%, so we can keep more while we're there. And the point really be, right, how much are we spending to fill our funnels? And Dead Ringers wants to help you increase that 35%. That's what we do. Now, instead of being salesy here, what I'll say is, if you don't need dead ringers, focus on some training skills for answering the phones. I mean, there's your basic pieces. One of them, you'll be amazed. I'll show you a couple pieces here in a minute. Some simple things you can do that folks aren't doing. And I know it's so hard to not have a little sales pitch of our names in there. We try not to. Want it to be educational for everyone, but we're not doing
Well, and I hope, Brent, I'm sitting over here like hoping and praying that you brought some examples to share of some good calls, because those are great.
Yeah, I did. Well, and I didn't get a bad call. I wanted a real bad call, but
darn.
I know. I wanted a real bad one, but
I was hoping for it.
Mandy's quick. I never know what she's doing. See if she can. My tech struggles.
Put me on the spot a little bit. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
you did. No,
those are awesome. And like, if anyone on this call, afterwards, please reach out to Brent and have him share some doozies with you, because I've heard a couple, and it totally opened my eyes. That's for sure.
Yeah. And my most recent one that I like to share is the receptionist that answers the phone, tells them, "Hold on just a moment," and you actually hear the phone lay down, and you hear as she walks away. I'm sorry, that was like running, wasn't she? That was too quick of a tap. But she's walking away, and then you hear the shoes come back. She says, "Sorry, I'm gonna have to get your name and number. He's in back embalming someone right now." And I'm like, "Stop. I can't believe you just said that one." But I got to get that one spliced out, because obviously when we do that, we don't ever want to share it. Yeah. So let's see here.
I'll tell you, to kind of go down that rabbit hole too. So I actually, many years ago, I was on the sales team at Ring Ring Marketing before I had started working directly with clients. And of course, as everyone on this call knows, funeral homeowners get a lot of sales calls. And so I would frequently make calls to funeral homes, and I heard some interesting ones too, Brent. So I'll have to share some of those stories with you as well. But I've heard the embalming one before. And there's some doozies out there. But yeah, just that first greeting is so critical. When a family's calling a funeral home, we want that to be warm and inviting and caring, for sure.
And Craig, you are correct. Craig shared that. I think everybody can see it. Yes, it's on for all, but that, what's your price for cremation? We all have to be prepared for that. That is the number one call today. And it's for Dead Ringers, it's our number one used and asked. I'll give it to you, because it's the best place to really learn what staff's doing. There's a few different ways we can look at it, but if we just call and say, "Hi, I and kind of pause, want to get some pricing on cremation if I can," we don't have to say anything else, just that. And what are we looking for is, do we pull people out? Does someone stop and say, "Well, may I ask, Is this an immediate need or something for the future? Right? Kind of get that, or do they do that? Do they? Great. Can I get your name first and make sure that the number that I see is a good number to reach back in case we get disconnected? Right now we got a name, just little things we do, but then do they pull it out? Like instead of just saying, did you want services with that? Well, no, I didn't want fries with it either. Right? It's no, pull out. Well, tell me a little bit about what you were thinking about cremation, or, there's all those things we've learned. Has anyone ever professionally explained cremation to you? I love that one because most of them are going to go, no. Now I'm going to go here real quick, Daniel, because you got me on another one of my little soapboxes.
Sorry, I can do that to you. I'm sorry.
It's because I have such a passion for cremation, right? Even back when I started, I was with Batesville and Nectar Ramirez, that team in 2008, when we kind of rebirthed options at Batesville. I put in my head this goal was to help do everything I could to decrease the amount of cardboard boxes being used. Well, maybe one or two at a time, but 10 have come in since I've taken one out. Just because, again, I'll say it, cardboard boxes are for shoes and pizza, not mom. And most people won't use a cardboard box for their pets, right? So anyway, but where I was going is, why do folks call, and when they call you, why is sometimes the question they ask is price? It's because no one wants to ask a dumb question, even though we say there's no dumb question. But when you got to ask a question, like, well, that's a dumb one, so I don't know what I'm going to do. What's the one thing they know you'll give them an answer of? Price. They can't call you and say, hey, I really don't know how cremation works. Could you tell me a little bit about it? And I think it was around 19 or 18, one of the last times when I was still with Batesville, they asked that question about cremation. Did you know it involved fire? And they still had one or two answer that it didn't know it involved fire, flame. So that tells us 100% that folks don't know. So the more we can pull out of them, we'll really get them to talk. And I still say the first one to get a family to talk wins the family. And,
Brent, that is a really good point. I think it's the easiest way to start the conversation with the funeral home. And you bring up a good point. They may not even really, in some cases, they may not care what the price is. They just don't know what else to ask. And it's the funeral home's obligation to continue that conversation with that family. That's a really, really eye-opening comment there. I'm really glad you mentioned that.
Craig hit it right there too. It's basically the same thing. People don't know what they don't know, right? It's our responsibility to inform them. And what I don't have this one on here for you, but our average call, our mystery shop call, 4 minutes and 24 seconds. Mm-hmm. But the average hold is 1 minute and 8 seconds. So we're having about a 3-minute conversation when we make calls. But again, a lot of our calls is because we'll just say, I'd like to get some information or pricing on cremation. They'll even say sometimes information, put it in, but when they say price, we go right to price. Now, this one ought to be fun. I should do a poll, but we'll just throw some out there and see what everybody thinks. What do you think the number is, though, that gets answered with the lowest price possible? How many times, like a percentage of 100?
I've got a thought, but I want to see what other people chime in first.
Anybody want to throw it
up here?
Okay, throw that into chat. What do you think, right? Like, so when someone calls and says, I'd like to know pricing on cremation, that we give them our lowest direct cremation price first thing, no matter what. How often do you think that happens out of 100%?
Craig.
Oh, yeah. Craig, that's it. Yeah. 75. Ooh, got an 80. There we go. Another 80.
Yeah, I'm with those 3 or 4 that are coming in. I was going to say 80 was going to be my guess.
Well, some of you've been through our trainings and presentations before. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's 81%.
Yeah,
81% of the time. That's just amazing. So, and there, I'll pass this out. There's a client that I've worked with in the past that, and again, we're just trying to say every package, every time, at least offer from top to bottom. Every time present your main 3 packages, because most of us have 3, right? A full, I call it full of service, some service, and no service. If you at least every time say our cremations start at the top and work down, you'll be amazed the conversations you'll have just by starting there. So good topic, good discussion. And that is all a part of the phone excellence is to really have a discussion. That's the customer experience is a discussion, not just answer that question and hope they get here. But what I'm also going to say is the best funeral directors in the world, when you go to sit with families, and I think everyone that's in it's great, you know how to whitewash before you walk in. Everything's where it needs to be. I got all my stuff where it needs to be. I know what I'm going to say and what I'm going to do. When we pick up the phone, it is a whole different ballgame because you never know what's going to happen when you answer the phone. you might have to be the psychologist on that call. You just don't know who's calling, right? Or it's just a simple death certificates or something. So it's figuring out how to get ourselves in that zone when we answer the phone.
Brent, you mentioned giving three options is a good strategy. Do you think that consumers like choices? They like options. Do you think that's an important part of the psychology behind that?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And you know what it is? Think of it at a point when, if we look at the Foresight and Fortitude's research, right? Even how they were talking about they don't want to feel pressured. They want more information from us, right? So they don't want to be sold. We don't want to sell them, but they're also saying, I need more information. I'm not getting enough information. Everyone wants to make an educated decision. So as long as we give you three choices, you can ask me some questions, we get into that discussion, then they're going to land somewhere, worst case, in the middle. So, but I do agree. That's where Craig, that's kind of what I was mentioning, too many, and you got them going too far. And that's where what I like about full service, some service, no service breaks down. I want some service. Well, now that we're at one service, I can narrow the others down and give you some more options. But yeah, we could go on all day long and talk about earns for the next day and still not have any decisions from them. But yeah, definitely psychology. Give them the choices. Oh, there it is again. Look at that. Thank you, Nikki. Love that line. Has anyone explained cremation to you? And the other one is, has anyone professionally explained cremation to you? Well, no, they definitely haven't, but I bet you're going to. So we are. And if you do it right now, I have a travel special for you too. I'm kidding. Just have a little fun. Have a commercial. All right. So I'm going to do this and we're going to jump back to some more things with everybody and Daniel. I love going off topic. Cremation's our struggle for everybody. It's the number one call we're getting on the phone. And Daniel, you're in the same place, I'm sure, with the cremation on the marketing, right? Because it's more than just $695 to $995. There's so much more to it.
Absolutely. And we have clients that, some of them are much more heavily, cremation based on where they're located, the type of business model they are. But yeah, some of our clients thrive on that. And then other ones are more traditional funeral homes that really, want as many full service as possible.
All right. Well, someone's asking here, how would you answer that question, right? When saying, has anyone professionally explained cremation to you? The key point to that is you get them talking. When they go, no. So then, so say, well, I'm going to begin now. Let me read the lecture, right? No, what we're going to say is, okay, well, I'll do my best today to help you with this. So tell me a little bit more about what you were thinking when you meant cremation. Just ask questions so that I can help you out here, right? Just, they're going to start talking, start asking what they know. Don't say, so what do you know about cremation, right? But just ask them, what were you thinking? Tell me a little more of why you're selecting cremation. Ask them questions and you will start to fill it in. It's when we assume that we know, we get ourselves in trouble. I love that also. A great thing that was taught over the years, it's a coaching tool. It can work great for sales, is after somebody starts to really tell you things, just say, that's wonderful. Anything else? Or tell me more. They will keep going. I've always thought that half the people that sit down probably already have in their mind what they want for a funeral or cremation. They just need them to tell me. So it's just ask them those questions. Like, tell me a little more of what you're thinking. How were you thinking of using cremation on your dad? Tell me about that. And they will really start to go in there and give you more and more information. So, all right. So I said we're going to offer a couple quick pieces. I always want everybody to have a couple tips. One thing that you can do when answer on any phone call, let me just build this real quick, is make sure we always answer the business name, your name, and a buffer statement. Right? It could be like I like to use, thank you for calling Dead Ringers. This is Brent. How may I assist you? Right? It takes it down instead of Dead Ringers, Brent. Okay, cool. But you know what it also does? Honestly, it slows me down. It makes me pause and think, which helps give me a little bit of that time to go, okay, put yourself in the right spot. So always have that buffer statement. Remember to close with one too. And when we do it, watch our tone of voice the best you can. And again, I want anybody out there that's in the funeral home, a funeral director, in crematory, cemetery, all places. I use funeral homes a lot, but all of us, we all see at need and pre-need, but we want to think before we meet any family, right? What is our tone of voice? Where are we at? Pay attention, because we don't know when we answer that phone, a death could have occurred. So we might be all hyped up in the back room, it's Christmas break or something's going on. We're like, woo! And then we answer the phone and we have too much joy, right? Maybe, or sometimes we're just hot because we didn't get the sale or something's not going right. We got a million things going on and we just answer a little rough. Or my favorite is don't be rushed. I've got a few folks that I coach with right now and they are moving so fast. I thought I moved fast, but they move really fast. So,
Brent, I had a manager years ago that told me when you pick up the phone, as you're putting it to your ear, smile. And it's kind of amazing that little, half of a second pause before you start that process. It just puts you in a great mindset.
And, that was Paul St. Pierre did that in an article he wrote for Selected. I remember that as well. But anyway, he and I talked about try to smile beforehand. And I'll tell you, still to today, even when I'd go into a location or anything I'm doing, I try to take a pause and I look in the rearview mirror when I'm in the car. I don't laugh. I laugh because I'm still doing it. It makes me go chuckle a little, but it wiped whatever was going on. And you have a little pep in your step at that point. So, yeah, I agree. That can also change your tone of voice. Absolutely, it can. And people can hear a smile. Yep. They can also hear when we're rushed and when we're not happy. And as I'll say for anyone that's on here in sales, cemetery, pre-need, they can also tell when you're desperate for sale. So just try to always keep yourself in a good spot. Yeah. All right. And always ask. We always have to make sure. It's amazing to me that it doesn't happen all the time. I'm amazed how many times it doesn't. At need, pre-need. And then what happens, I had one just the other day. So it got transferred. So it got answered by a receptionist or admin and just said, they asked if it was at need or pre-need. And then they said that it was pre-need. So that got transferred over. Or no, I'm trying to remember. They didn't say it was pre-need. That's what it was. Oh, look at me. I can't tell a story without changing my mind. They didn't ask. The reception didn't ask because she asked for pricing. She automatically sent her to pre-need because she didn't hear that it was at need maybe. So then pre-need picks it up and just moves on with it as a pre-need. And the whole time it was one of our calls, was intended at need. And it wasn't until about 3 minutes in, the question got asked. And then they're like, oh, foot and mouth, right? I wish I would have asked a long time ago. But again, they weren't expecting it because it should have been asked ahead of time. But that's why we want to make sure we have warm transfers, not cold transfers if possible. But I didn't bring that one up for today. Daniel, I'm passing back here in a second. Names. I got to read these stats for you. And always ask a name, no matter who we're talking to. And do yourself a favor, write it down or remember it somehow. Right? Because a lot of times we ask that name and then we never get it again. And nothing worse at the end to say, again, what was your name? But I will give you a trick. If you've ever asked the name, you can't remember what it was. Now, how exactly did you spell your name again? See, because there's so many different spellings that you can get away with not saying I don't know your name. So anyway, trying to help you out there. But 70% of the calls, when we did a survey of 50,000 calls, and we make a lot of calls, 70% of the time, the professional never asked for the caller's name. Think about that. Now, would you ever sit down with a family anywhere at that appointment and not ask that name? So when you think about that funnel and that gap in the middle, there's one of them. 60% of professionals never ask the name of the loved one who passed. That's amazing to me. Now, I do know in some markets, there's some pushback. I understand that. But if you're not one of those markets, and even if you are, keep pushing it. And then 30% of professionals never repeat their own name. So those are just a couple stats that are amazing to me, but always use their names. Nothing loves better than to hear your name, right, in the middle of a call. It just adds such a professional feel to the conversation. All right. Daniel, I'm gonna send things back to you. You have a slide you prefer? Do you want to go back to the funnel?
Sure, we can, absolutely. And I'd love to see if anyone else has questions about the funnel, because really that funnel it's ring marketing. That's pretty much what we do on a daily basis. So that's definitely something that I could help out with. But I guess let me ask this question for the group. So at the beginning, I asked you all to grab your cell phone and do a search for funeral home near me. How did those results come out? I mean, again, assuming if you're sitting in your funeral home, we would hope that you're the top result there. But did anyone have any eye-opening results that they want to share in chat? I think that'd be a great place to start.
I forgot you did that.
Crickets. Everyone must be really happy with their results is all I can figure.
Or they don't want to tell you,
Or
it's
they
like,
don't want to tell me, they're afraid to.
I'm too far down. Well, and then I noticed that, and I think Welton brought it up, but there's a whole nother segment now on Google that didn't used to be there, right? With the direct dial. It's like there used to be the couple box, like you could go to sponsored and then down with the map, and then you were ready, right? So you could kind of see. Now they have a whole nother section up there. It's like we all just keep getting further down.
And so many searches, Brent, are happening on mobile now versus desktop that the experience on mobile has really gotten so much better where the whole transaction can happen right on the mobile phone. So one of the services that we have that kind of fits into that problem aware section of the funnel there would be Google Ads. That's something that a lot of our clients use as a piece of the overall marketing puzzle. And Google Ads has really streamlined operations now where many of our clients are actually receiving phone calls directly from that Google ad. And those particular people don't even visit the website. They literally do a Google search, the ad pops up, they like what they see, they hit call, and the phone call happens. So in the course of about 10 seconds, they went from a search to, all the way down at the bottom of the funnel. So sometimes that does happen a little bit there too.
You got a few things there to go over.
I know, I see that.
Yeah.
So let's see. So Nikki, I know there are funeral homes near me, but none of them appear at the top of the search list. Closest is 30 minutes away. Interesting. So Nikki, a couple questions I would have for you, and this might be a conversation for offline a little bit. But when you are looking at that, are some of the top results, do they have the word sponsored under them? And the reason I ask about that is one of the really cool things about Google Ads is that you can actually identify an area that you'd like to target. So let's just say hypothetically that top result on your search is a funeral home 30 miles away. They probably are targeting the area where you're sitting right now to grow their market share. So they're essentially paying for that position, to be that top result where you're sitting right now doing that search. It's a great strategy.
That fit what Andrew's bringing up, that the competitor's 30 miles away, but they're showing in his area. Okay.
Yeah, so I'd be curious if that sponsored one comes up first. Google has changed up some things over the last year or two, but typically the sponsored results are at the very top of the page. Sometimes they're not. They always used to be, but sometimes now they're a little bit further down too. But that's my guess. That's probably what's happening. And that particular funeral home is probably trying to steal some market share away from the people who are in your area. So that would be my best guess. If you do scroll down a little bit on the page, there's actually a section called the local section. That's where you see the map, and then Google actually will usually recommend 3 top businesses in that area. That's another core strategy of that search engine marketing on the funnel there. And I really like that section personally because there's not a whole lot you can do there to influence those results. Google's usually going to pick and I always use air quotes when I say this, but they pick the 3 best businesses that identify with that search term. So the way that Google determines who's best, proximity, that's always going to be king. They're going to recommend businesses in that section that are extremely close to you. But then there's also some things like which business has the highest number of Google reviews, who has the highest star rating, which business maybe is open. That's one recommendation, kind of a free recommendation that we always like to provide to everyone is make sure your business is listed as open 24/7. So many times we're doing searches for funeral homes and they have their business hours as 9 to 5. Well, hey, the people in this room, we know death happens 24 hours a day. So even if someone's, sitting at the hospital bed, they just lost a loved one and it's 2 a.m. and they're doing a search for a funeral home, even though you might not be sitting in the funeral home at that exact moment, we want you to show as open online. So that is another thing that local section takes into account is what business is open. Who do we recommend at this exact moment in time?
Oh, wow. So if you're showing closed, you're not going to pull in that search at that time. Well, no, that's
exactly. Or even if you do show up, if you have 2 businesses that are similar, similar number of Google reviews, similar star rating, both kind of in the same geographic area, one's listed as open and one's listed as closed, who's that family going to call? Probably the open business. They've just experienced a death. They need to make a decision quickly. Maybe they see a name that they recognize, the business is listed as open, and it's a very easy decision for them then.
I'm loving all this information. I think we should do a couple months from now, do one of these where everybody could send in questions. Here's what I'm finding. Here's what I want to know. And Daniel, you can just tell us, how do we work through this situation, right? Because I'm thinking about it going, okay, well, like Andrew's got someone in his market advertising in his. So then my question is, okay, how do I work against that? What's the suggestions? And I'm sure there's many different things that you'd ask, but I don't know. I just sit back and I'm like, if anybody'd be interested in that, let us know. I just would love to sit down and say, here's marketing challenges in general. How do I get around that? Because I think Google and SEO to all of us is kind of like, it just flies up here.
One of the interesting parts about the death care profession as a whole is that, thinking about at-need services, we have a very finite number of families that we can serve over the course of a month. And let's say you're a funeral home located in a specific city, and we know that the death count in the county you're located is X. So we know that you only have that many opportunities to serve a family in that community. So those people are making decisions, whether it's you or your competitor. It's just kind of interesting to see where the consumer goes. And we talked before about raving fans, which I love that term that you have on your slide there, Brent. But there's a lot of people out there that are not raving fans yet, or, maybe they've just moved to the area and they truly don't know who to call. And that's where Google's such a great tool for them.
Well, I think a few folks like the idea, but those of you that want an answer right away, you can always reach out to Daniel. He's always there for you. I can tell you that.
Absolutely.
Because I would venture to say it'd be February before we can all get back together on here. But there's a question down there. I don't know if you want to take that one, Daniel.
Let's see here.
From Suzanne.
I see it. Yes. How do you ask a family who just lost a loved one to post a Google review? Suzanne, that is a great question. And we talk a lot about that at Ring Ring Marketing. Number one, it is not easy. So, that's something that we really struggle with. I'm actually going to answer the question in two ways. So there are a lot of services out there, and I'll put a little bit of a selfless promotion in. Ring Ring Marketing does have a review tool option, but there are others too that are out there. An automated tool like that is really helpful because it helps you, number one, remember to do that. But typically what we like to do is, when you're actually at the arrangement table with the family, at the very end of that, it's just a great idea at that point to put a plug in for it and say, hey, after the services for grandma are complete, we'd love for you to share your thoughts with us. We may ask you to review us on Google. Just at that point, just a soft mention of it at that point. And then what we do is we kind of have found that sweet spot is usually about 1 to 3 weeks after the service. So not immediately after, and I'll share a funny example of that one in a minute here. But we also want it to still be relevant and top of mind for that particular person. With death care, there's grieving involved. So we don't want to ask for it too quickly. Frequently I use my dentist as an example. So when I go to my dentist, they have an automated system that they use for Google review requests. As I'm walking out of the dentist office to my car, I'm getting a text message that says, hey, would you mind reviewing us? It's great. Going to the dentist is something where you can ask very quickly like that. But obviously that wouldn't work with death care. We know that, that's not a great example. So getting the timing down right is critical. But Suzanne, really, the fact that you're asking about even mentioning it to the family is so important, because if you don't ask people to review you on Google, they're probably not going to. So I think probably the timing is the first piece of it. And then I would definitely look into some of those automated systems out there. There's a lot of good ones. And then what they do is they actually help by either texting that particular family, or you can send them an email saying, hey, it was our pleasure to serve your family. We appreciate you choosing us, over the competitors. Would you leave us that Google review? And we found with our review tool that we usually see about a 10 to 15% response rate. So if you're sending that out to 100 families that you serve, you'll get about 10 to 15 Google reviews, which is truly about 10 to 15 more than you would get without asking. And another little tip, Suzanne, I would ask families that come into your funeral home and do a pre-plan. Ask them to review you on Google too. Oftentimes that's a great person to ask because you don't have that grief and sorrow to deal with. That kind of goes back to my dentist example. That's someone that you could ask to review you while they're right there, completing their paperwork and everything like that. So yeah, that's a tip that I do share with a lot of the clients I work with, is ask the pre-need families as well.
I think we need to create I don't know. I feel like Dead Ringers needs to make a good way for us to ask for that too, right? Like really think through the CX. So how do I actually ask for that? So anyway, the ideas that keep running in my head, they just kind of go everywhere. So, all right.
Now, so I hope I answered your question, Suzanne, but it really, each situation's a little different. I think the timing is the probably the most critical piece of it with death care. Kind of in that 1 to 3 week time period where it's still very fresh in their mind, but maybe some of the grief has subsided at that point as well.
And I think most of the systems, or most of the different ways doing it out there, is it's more about asking how they felt. Is everything okay? It's not just a cold, would you leave a review? There's a couple steps before that, kind of like, right, if we're going to do a pre-need follow-up, let's say, we know that when we got with the first one for aftercare, it really has to be aftercare, not try to make that sale the first step, right? And I think a Google review just kind of fits with that as well. Don't jump in right away. It's a couple steps. So, well, this was fun.
I have one more quick thought on the review. Yeah. Another really great opportunity too is don't miss any opportunities. So I'll share an example with you. Again, going back to one of the clients I work with, they're located in Colorado, and they have, kind of stereotypical, as people are leaving the funeral home, they have someone there at the door, and people will say, "Oh, this was a beautiful service. Thank you so much. We appreciate you guys. Grandma never looked better," those types of things. They have business cards. Every employee in the funeral home has business cards, whether you're part-time, full-time, just work maybe one service a month, who knows what it might be. But on the back of the business card, it is a QR code that they can scan and do a Google review. So those employees are all trained. Whenever someone says, "Hey, this was a great service, we appreciate you guys," they whip out their business card and say, "If you wouldn't mind, would you please scan this code and leave those same remarks on Google? We really appreciate what you just shared with us." It doesn't have to be the people sitting in the arrangement room that leave you a Google review. So every service you have, if 50, 75 people come to a funeral service, that's 50 opportunities for a Google review. So I do think kind of being ready in the moment with something like that is helpful too.
Nice. No, that makes absolute sense. Yeah. All right. I'm going to jump all the way back here. I knew he'd want to see it. Everyone should have put the funnel in the right place. I knew we'd go back to it. And I'm not taking this down. Okay. Got something here, a special offer that came. Dan and I are happy for this. We are both going to be speaking at the Tech Turbocharge in Baltimore. Or if I was from the area, I'd call it Baltimore with a D, not a T. But if I was from Baltimore, December the 11th this year. There's 5 different speakers. It's a great event that Funeral Vision's putting on. And Tom reached out to us and said, "Hey, you are welcome to add the flash sale. We would love to honor it to any of your folks. If anybody wants to continue these conversations, Daniel and I will gladly sit down. I mean, we might be at the bar. We can have a drink and talk over any of this. Especially knowing Dead Ringers and Paul, we like to have cocktails. Maybe we'll introduce you to the Dead Ringer cocktail. Paul's got one now for us. So
hey, I've never had that. I want to try that one.
Right? I haven't either, because he just told me it's ready to go. So we'll see what that is. But yeah, so Tom's running he said for us, I know it says the 8 people, but if we get 10, 12, 20, I'm sure we'll be okay until it's gone. But he's running 80% off. You pay around $80 a ticket. Of course, you cover your travel. But if you've never been one of these events, I highly suggest them. I started going to some of Tom's events back. It's been 5-6 years ago now. And what's great is you're with folks that you get to network and talk to that may be from different parts of the country. They'll hear your challenges too. So we wanted to offer that out to everybody. That's my sales pitch there. But Daniel and I will both be there with a few other presenters. We'd love to have you come have a drink. And I will have the Dead Ringers drink by then. And at the same time, Dead Ringers is going to have a special announcement that we will be making while we're there. So we will, there's more to come on that, but it won't come until that day.
Well, I was going to say I was excited for the drink, but I think I'm even more excited for the announcement. And I'll put one quick plug in too that Tom Parmalee with Tech Turbocharge, he actually has this is approved for CE in several states. So if you're in any of these eastern states, definitely it makes sense to be there. So Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and I think there's a couple others that he's working on as well. So it's 5 hours of CE credits for those states.
Ooh, right. So you can get some nice points on the Nair line around the end of the year to boost your status and get those Con Ed hours. No, anyway.
And the cocktail,
yeah, and a Dead
Ringers cocktail. Yeah.
Stop. I'll tell you what. I'll even splurge. I'll get everybody a Dead Ringers cocktail. Ooh.
Oh, hey, we need a recording of this one.
You do, and the bartender will be like, "I have no idea how to make this. This could be fun, I think." So, all right. Well, with that, I will stop sharing. Sorry, I'll leave that up. Let's just leave that up in case anybody wants it. But basically, let me just do this right. The promo code is 80. Just put 80 in the promo code, and you'll get all taken care of. So, anyway, we look forward to seeing everyone. Maybe all of us can be there. That'd be great. Want to thank you, Daniel. Really appreciate you joining us today. This was great education, and looks like we're having you back. I think it's probably gonna be closer to February, depending on how things go.
I'll be here. I'd love that.
And Tom is on here. There we
go. There he is.
So there again, Tom put out there. It's Tom@funeralvision.com. You're welcome to reach out to him with any questions. Most of you probably know Tom Parmalee, and if not, drop him an email just to say hi and hello. Tom's a great resource. He knows about everybody. So again, we thank you. We really appreciate it. We're past time. So, if you have any other ideas that we could ever do, let us know. We would love to step in, and we'll get the right folks here, and let's have a fun conversation again. All right. Well, we appreciate it, everyone. We're going to head and conclude for today. Bye, guys. Thanks, Daniel.
Bye. Thanks so much for having me. Take care.